All right, Overdrive continues. Hour 2 brought to you by FanDuel, bringing you everything from the opening line to the final score. Bryan Hayes, Yoduck, Jeff O'Neill, Jamie Noodles McLennan. Role play level of concern in about a half an hour, where someone will be playing Josh Allen, someone will be playing Mitch Marner, someone will be playing Paul Maurice. There's a lot of different roles that will be played. John Tortorella. Someone will be playing John Tortorella.
Yeah.
Later in the
what
hour.
did he have to say today?
I watched his presser today. He talked for 15 minutes.
He was talking. He was in the mood to talk today.
Yeah.
You guys want to hear the one clip from Torts?
Of course.
Okay, because he was addressing his comments the other day that caught the ire of many people, ourselves included. We talked about it extensively yesterday, and here's what John Tortorella had to say about his post-game a couple of nights ago and where he's at with his team right now.
It always comes down to, right? It always comes down, they're going to quit on him. It follows me around. And so be it. If a player's going to quit on me or players are going to quit on me because I'm trying to make them better people and better athletes, you got the wrong damn coach here and you got the wrong damn people here. So I'm not sure what goes on. My job is I am going to push athletes. And I try to stay away from I have other things on my mind that I don't give you. I was in control the other night. What I said I meant. And quite honestly, when I watch the tape now, I'm more concerned than just the second period. Because I'm so proud of the team getting here. And I guess now the narrative out there is, because I've heard from other people, that they're young, they're not supposed to be here. We're here. We're here. Face it. And let's be better. And I don't think we're ready to be better. And that's my problem with us right now. And it is my job. I have not done a good enough job to get them over the hump after playing those 7 games. And then each game as it goes down, we have 6 left. I haven't done a good enough job to make them understand we have to be different now. We have to be at a different level. That's my frustration with me, and that's my frustration with the team. And if people can't handle it, so be it.
A couple things about that. I respect the fact that he had some clarity, and why not do that in the moment? If you can do that in the moment, you might be turning a corner towards. As far as the coach making the players better people, Gary Roberts, Nelson Emerson, Kevin Dineen made me a better person. Not the coach, because I never really saw him. And, the coach made me dig the puck out of the corner and finish my checks. I don't know how that made me a better person. You can hold me accountable, maybe, but the better person stuff is nonsense.
Yeah, that's a high school coach. That's a college coach recruiting 18-year-olds and telling parents.
You're dealing with grown-ass men. I don't need some
Couturier is
coach
31 years old. You're not
with
making
kids.
That's not your job to make him a better person. I'm not sure what he really meant by that.
Well, I just wanted to bring attention to that. But I give him credit for kind of bringing that up. And just like you mentioned yesterday, Hayes, which is awfully convenient, he said, I'm really proud of them. Yeah, no kidding. Yeah,
you should be.
You could throw that out there once in a while.
Well, could have said that the other night. And you know what? He didn't. But I watched the whole 15 minutes. Like, he is a really fascinating guy. Mm-hmm. You know what? The one thing that I think he gets himself in trouble is in emotional things, in emotional situations. He may not handle it the way he wants to, and then all of a sudden the next day he's got to clarify. And like today was a moment of clarity, and I watched the whole 15 minutes. I'm like, this guy, what he's talking about made 100% sense. Even the clip that we just posted, he's saying, hey, a lot of people didn't have us here. Doesn't matter. We're here now. I'm trying to get us through. Mm-hmm. I don't disagree with that. I think he's 100% bang on, but there's still tact. And I think that's where people had the problems with the tact of the last couple weeks we've seen, the goaltender, the other night, all of that. Mm. He's a passionate guy. He sometimes walks back his comments, but I don't mind it.
Listen, he's a really good coach.
Hell of a coach, exactly.
We did our awards last week, and for the Jack Adams, I believe I had him 5th. I've paid great compliments to Tortorella as a really good coach. It doesn't change what they've done up to here, but the last few weeks, it's gotten away from him. Right? He got suspended for 2 games. That doesn't help your team. He got suspended. Right. He put himself in a position where he got suspended. The stuff with the goalie in particular, where he just kind of shrugged and didn't give an answer, that's not making someone a better person
No.
or helping them win. That's kind of almost mocking the situation. The next day, he came out and apologized and clarified that, which he's allowed to do. And again, it's a separation for me when it comes to Tortorella, and I felt this way forever. As a coach, he's a really good coach. Really, really good coach and a great motivator. And this has been one of, if not the most positive story in the league this year. It's incredible what's happened in Philly. I thought they'd be one of the 7 or 8 worst teams in the league. Like, that's what it felt like, and they're in a playoff position right now. And they might miss. And if they miss, it's because they're just not good enough, right? They're just not good enough. But, with Tortorella, a lot of times before the game, after the game, it seems like it gets carried away where it's the players. And the comment he made the other night, obviously he is entitled. He is the guy in charge to assess his team, to feel whichever way he wants to feel, to play who he's going to play. But, the comment he made the other night was, call them all soft, and then he clarified it, and he said there are guys here who just don't have it. They can't do it and just don't have it. So that would suggest Tortorella is basically quitting on those guys because he's saying they don't have it for me to get over the top, right? They don't have it, and I'm telling you right now, they don't have it. And it's like, okay, do they not have it or are they young? They're trying to figure it out. But you don't want to hear young. It's a 3-ring circus all the time.
I think it was cryptic, though, Brian. I think it's cryptic there's some guys in there that won't be here next year. I still read that.
But is that his job as the coach? I thought that's the GM that makes that job. I thought his job is to coach who you have and try to prop them up and get them over the top.
I agree, and I think he's done that. But I also think that this is a process with that group that I think he has, kind of like Mike Sullivan in Pittsburgh. Like he's come in. He's not just the coach there. I think he has more reach.
I think you're right.
So
I think you're right on that.
That'll be interesting. The tact is where. It sounds like you have the problem with, which a lot, not you, a lot of people have the problem with the tact because it doesn't fall, it falls on deaf ears. I said this today to some other buddies of mine. I said 100% I feel like this has shortened his shelf life there. Because if he had a 3-year window and if there's going to be the core he's moving forward with, because he's a guy who shoots from the hip and is emotional and that does chip away at the core. And if he's so I think what happens is if he was a 3 or 4 year guy, that might have shortened it by a year. His not just those comments like that in a vacuum. I'm saying this.
He's got a way of going about coaching, and he's been doing it forever. He's not going to change. I wouldn't expect him to, and I appreciate that he believes in himself. He should.
Right.
But, there is a shelf life for everyone, and I think in terms of his approach, it might be shorter than others. Here's Pierre LeBrun, our TSN Hockey Insider. Where do you stand on Tortorella and where he stands in Philly today and into the future?
You guys are fired up, let me tell you.
No, we're not.
No.
Yeah, it's not like it's a big story. We're just commenting on it.
I'm just trying to get over O-Dog's tattoo removal process there. But Torts, listen, gosh, I've covered Torts for so long. He's a fun guy to be around media-wise for sure, but I don't play for him. And one thing that I've become more wise about as I get older, I think, is our dealings with the coach are different than perhaps what it's like to be a player for a coach, if that makes any sense. And he's pretty fired up. And, Noodle just said something interesting about his shelf life. And one thing I would say is this, is that, John Tortorella is 65 years old, and the idea of when this will end in Philly, whenever that is, he's got 2 more years on his contract after this year, if my memory serves right. I think that's going to be more of a 2-way street than just a 1-way street. Like, he's 65, been around a long time. I suspect when things end in Philly, and that could be who knows when, it could be in 2.5 years, could be whenever, or it could be before that, to Noodle's point. I suspect it'll be more of a mutual thing than just the team, based on my sense of Tortorella's reach within that organization. Like he's not your, like you guys said, Mike Sullivan, not your average coach in terms of his say in Pittsburgh, right? And I think that's absolutely the way it's set up in Philly with John Tortorella.
Udos was mentioning he thinks it's kind of like Tort speak, where there's going to be some guys next year that aren't going to be there? Would you take it? Because Torts just can't stand them and he doesn't think they can win with them. Is that how you would read it, Pierre?
I mean, I think to some degree, O'Doc, but also, let's be fair, Danny Briere hasn't hidden where this is all going. If you pay attention to Danny Briere's interviews since he became GM, and that chance of making the playoffs, or at least being in a playoff race this year, which is surprising even to management, I think, hasn't deviated from what Briere's plan is. I mean, he wants to overhaul a lot of this roster. I mean, he's talked about that from day one, and he's going to continue to do that. He's been among the busier GMs since he got hired, and he's going to continue to be. And that's why they didn't get intoxicated with the moment of being in a playoff spot a month ago and keep Sean Walker just because they're in a playoff spot. They understood that the 23-24 season isn't what will define what Danny Briere and John Tortorella are trying to do in Philly. They traded John Walker because the first-round pick was more valuable in the overall picture than trying to get into the playoffs by 1 point and probably losing out in the first round of the playoffs. So that tells you, I mean, I don't need to hear it necessarily from the coach that some guys are on borrowed time there. It's a fact that Danny Briere wants to continue to overhaul the roster, and that's going to continue this summer.
Pierre, quickly, just on the coaches, you mentioned Torts' contract status. Do people in Carolina understand that they need to pay Rod Brind'Amour to make him stay this time, or did they get that message, or how do you think that plays out?
Yeah, well, yes, his deal, we talked about this at the start of the year, that he was one of the guys on an expiring deal. Now, they do things differently in Carolina, as you know. Don't
get me started on that, Pierre, because I know exactly what you're talking about.
Well, my point is that the last time Rod Brind'Amour was up, he signed his new contract, I think in mid-June, and his deal was up June 30th. And you're talking about, I think anyway, I don't know what you guys think, I think a top 5 coach in the NHL.
All day.
And so my point is they went to the end last time, and you know, my understanding is there have been some talks and conversations there about what a new deal would look like. So it's not like they're sleeping on it. I mean, obviously it's absolutely paramount for management to get Rod Brind'Amour signed. But at the end of the day, and this is what we're getting to, it's the owner Tom Dundon makes the final call on a lot of these things, and he also. I texted with him at the start of the year because I wrote about the coaches on expiring deals, and he said, we'll get Rod signed. It was his response. But it hasn't happened yet. So to your point, now I will say that, again, going back to the last time this happened a couple years ago, the holdup at the time was also making sure that all his assistants got signed. And I suspect, without knowing for sure, that that's probably part of the thing here now is this is about the whole staff, not because Rod Brind'Amour never puts himself in front that way. He would want to make sure that everyone involved is being taken care of, and that's probably why we haven't heard anything yet.
With Pierre LeBrun, our TSN Hockey Insider, we talked about Tortorella, and they're fighting for their lives right now. Washington lost last night. They're trying to figure it out. Pittsburgh's in it again. The Islanders are in it. Detroit.
Yeah, Sydney's hanging in
there. Sid and the Pens are kind of still lurking at this point. Yeah, they're lurking.
Could he do anything to sniff around a Hart nomination?
I don't know, Pierre. Where do you stand on that?
I tell you what, if 87 got the Penguins in the playoffs, it'd be impossible not to have them on your 5 names. That would be unbelievable. And not just because of how great he's been again, but honestly because he's had a lot of passengers all year on that team. Mm-hmm. I mean, you talk about the definition of MVP to your team. Holy smokes. It's interesting what's happening with that race. It's Washington gets on a run. The Flyers are obviously hit and miss. It's really interesting. Detroit has struggled, so it's pretty wide open. The Islanders are still in it. I think the Caps got waxed in Buffalo last night because I wrote a 2,000-word feature on Charlie Lindgren, so it's my fault. Washington fans can... Washington
the
fans.
jinx.
The kiss of death.
Kiss of death.
I always worry about writing about goal. In fact, I try not to write about goalies before a playoff game for that very fear that somehow the poor guy has his worst game. I know it's got nothing to do with it, but it's how riders are wired. We're wired that way. I think at the end of the day, if you ask me who ends up in which spot, I think the Islanders get in. I really do. I think the Islanders are going to find a way to get in, and we'll get some Patrick Waugh first round playoff action.
Well, there's two spots there too, right? Because Philly,
right.
that third spot in the Metro, and then you've got that last spot behind Tampa. So Detroit's there, the Islanders there, Pitt's there, and Buffalo's 5 points out pretty much, I think. Now, I was doing this with Gord Miller the other day. I think the number, I don't know what you guys have heard or calculated or seen anything, is like 91 points. It's a lot lower in the East than it is. Yeah, it's going to be lower in the East than it is in the West. So 91, like that looks like Buffalo would have to kind of win out type of thing. Pitt has a chance, though. Like, they're sniffing. Like, I haven't looked at their schedule, guys. I don't know if they play head-to-head with Wash or Detroit or, the Islanders or Philly, because that's where you start to make up some hay is head-to-head on each other, right?
I'll look it up. Actually, you know what? They're in Washington on Thursday. They play Washington tomorrow night. They've got a game against Detroit still, and they're at the Islanders the last night of the season. So
and the fear, I know from talking to these teams, the fear at this time of year is when the other teams in this race are playing each other that it doesn't go to overtime.
Yeah.
Oh my God, people just hate those 3-point games when they're in a race like this. Oh, and there's been a ton of late.
Yeah.
There's been a ton. Well, listen, I mean, I tell you what, if the Penguins get in too, I mean, I don't know that there's a GM in the league that's taken more heat than Kyle Dubas has this year in Pittsburgh. And if they get in, and he managed to get the deal that he got, not that I think it was a home run, but he got some futures for Jake Kensel, and then they turn around with Mike Bunting and maybe get in. Boy, that'll be big for him in his first year there, given what lies ahead.
Speaking of the GMs, Pierre, if the Islanders don't get in, does that mean the end for Lou? It would probably seem that way, wouldn't it?
I heard no talk of that, O-Dog. Honestly, sometimes when you hear that kind of thing, you hear rumblings ahead of time, but I've not heard that at all out of the island. So we'll see. But, he obviously had the authority to make the coaching change, which he did. So I don't know if I'm ready to say that. I'm not so sure.
Yeah, I don't know if Lou would get the gate. Like, they were a playoff team last year, were they not? I'm trying to remember now. I think they're a team that's kind of on the cusp. But I mean, you just got to look at his sheer age alone. Isn't he 83
he's not young.
Years old?
Yeah, he's in his 80s now.
At some point, he's going to want to pack.
I know, but I look older than him. Like, let's give the guy credit.
He's still got it together, Lou. Yeah, he does.
Honestly, he's the best-dressed GM in the league. Hands down. But, yeah, I don't know. Like, if we should go around the table. If we're picking a team, who is it?
To get in?
Yeah, to get in. Like, so there's two spots, right? Because Philly's in that last spot, but it's Washington there. You've got Detroit, the Islanders, Pitt.
None of them want it right now. Like, that's the amazing thing. They're all struggling.
None of them want it.
They really are struggling.
Oh, they want it. They just can't do it.
Right. Yeah, I mean, Philly's
what,
losing. And go ahead, Pierre.
I know Carolina's been trying to keep up with the Rangers, and they have. I mean, Carolina and the Rangers have been unreal. But deep down, if you're the Hurricanes, do you really want to catch the Rangers for first, or are you okay in that 2-3 matchup in the Metro?
Yeah, all day, exactly. Although, that said, if you're the top seed, you're going to play probably one of the other teams, Washington, Detroit, the Islanders. But, yeah, I think you're okay with being the 2 seed home ice against Philly or Washington or whoever it's going to be. As for the Leafs and where they're at, I guess Sheldon Keefe was asked about Matthews pursuing 70 and is it hanging over the team? And he gave the answer I think most people would expect, that it has nothing to do with what their plans are the rest of the way. And the priority for Keefe and Matthews and the team is to prepare for the playoffs. Yet it's a significant story. I mean, this guy's chasing history, and every goal he scores, he's rewriting the history books for the Leafs, right? He's reestablishing a new record every single time he scores, and he's got 62 with 8 games to go. Is it possible for this story to amp up considering how much energy and oxygen it's already taken over the last, couple of months?
I think if he gets that close, and it really could do so, he can't, obviously, he's on pace, but I think this town would go nuts, given how special that number is. And, I thought it was telling today. I was at the morning skates, and some of my media colleagues were asking Leaf players about it. And I thought what was telling to me is that how much it seems to matter to Matthews' teammates that he gets to 70. I mean, when players are just answering questions because they know they have to answer questions, and then when they answer a question and their eyes light up. Their eyes are lighting up talking about Matthews' chance to score 70. To me, it's a little peek into that room and how much he matters to his teammates and how much he doesn't put himself ahead of anyone and how much that team wants him to achieve this. So I think that's all good stuff for sure, ahead of the playoffs if he can pull that off. The other thing, you guys talked about it earlier, but I asked Sheldon Keefe this morning about suddenly being, 3 back of Florida with 2 games in hand. And how much really is that something that they should be focused on or not, or just making sure they're playing, they're going into the playoffs with their A game and not worrying about where the seeding is. And his answer, if you guys heard, is that he really isn't thinking about home ice or trying to catch Florida, and that he just wants them to be, to have their A game going. And I think that's a genuine answer from Sheldon Keefe. And I think for a couple of reasons. One is that it hasn't exactly helped them that often to have home ice in the playoffs. Mm-hmm. And I really feel that team tighten up sometimes before the playoffs start and all the hype here and all the fans and Maple Leafs swear. And I get it. Cry me a river. That's called being a pro. Deal with it. But I don't think it's a bad thing if the Leafs start on the road. I really don't. And so this is a weird thing to say, but normally you're like, well, yeah, give me home ice all day. It just hasn't mattered that much in the Stanley Cup playoffs of the past decade, especially. And for this team, get on the road, get a split, and come home for Game 3 with the split, I think is the recipe in my mind. I don't know what you guys think.
Yeah.
You also have the option to win 2 on the road, Pierre. It's a great thing.
Yeah.
Also true.
Yeah,
everyone just describes going on the road. It's like, yeah, pray for the split. It's like you could win 2 too, and then really be in the driver's seat.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that would cut it. I think most people in Toronto would sign off on that idea.
Oh yeah.
We'll see, Pierre. Enjoy it tonight, and we'll do it again soon. Thank you for this.
Right on. See you, boys.
There he is, Pierre LeBrun, our TSN Hockey Insider, joining us here on the Maple Toyota Hotline. Check out Maple Toyota's huge truck and SUV lineup, including Tundra, 4Runner, Highlander, and Grand Highlander, in stock and ready to deliver. Visit mapletoyota.com. Adam Hadwin in about an hour, preparing for the Masters next week. Joe Bowen, Jimmy Ralph with the call tonight on TSN Radio. They're coming up from the rink in about 40 minutes, get their take on the game tonight against Tampa, where Tampa stacks up for them in terms of a rivalry right now with the Leafs. So that more still to come with Bonesy and Ralphie. And role play level of concern. Role play level of concern.
And after this break, an outrageous lineup adjustment that I mentioned earlier in the show. It will blow your mind.
I saw that.
Okay, I know where you're going with this, but yes, we will get you that update as well. OverDrive continues. TSN 1050 and on TSN 2. All right, so last night it was looking bleak for the Blue Jays.
Miserable watching,
miserable.
Oh my God.
Miserable. They got no hit the night before. It was almost worse last night until 2 outs in the ninth. Justin Turner walks and Davis Schneider steps up and launches one to left center to ultimately win the game for the Blue Jays. And everyone clearly thinking, wow, that's amazing. Davis Schneider. What an amazing story it was last year that he effectively came out of nowhere and lit the league on fire, then had a really good spring, makes the team. Sure, he might be a guy that has to come off the bench from time to time, but it's not like the rest of this lineup's exactly, on fire right now. And they're in action tonight, and the lineup is out. And guess who is not a part of it?
Why?
Davis Schneider.
That is
why,
insanity, man.
I don't understand that. What is
It's because they map out their plan before they even land in Houston. That's what it is. It's they're on the flight from Tampa to Houston. They know who's starting. They know what their lineup is, and it doesn't matter.
Dude, Kevin Kiermaier, I love the guy. He's a cool cat. He has no business walking up to the plate with a bat in his hand right now.
It's troublesome.
No business.
Yeah. And he's not alone. Varsho has had a typically Varsho start. It's been a mess. Biggio hasn't been off to a great start. Like, you can find a place for Schneider tonight. Right. This is the nature of the beast, that they have a lot of kind of utility-type players, and Schneider is capable of moving around. Defensively, it may not be your best lineup, and I understand that. Not
Schneider. Too often, Hayes, can you watch their offense and predict what's going to happen. Guy on first, you'd be like, this guy's going to ground out into a double play right now. Last night, it was every time.
Yeah. Guy
on first, ground out, thrown out, double play. It was the same thing every inning until he hit that dinger.
Yeah. And yet, here he is. Schneider not playing tonight. So, will he come off the bench at some point? Maybe. It's definitely possible. Obviously, John Schneider doesn't see him as an everyday guy, and maybe he's not. Maybe he doesn't have that capability. It's not like he's a 21-year-old five-star guy coming up that you've all been waiting for. But since he's arrived in the major leagues, he has a propensity for big hits, hitting for power, kind of what's lacking with this team right now. But Schneider not in the lineup tonight. So there you go.
We'll see if they can win without him then.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. That's the nature of the beast. But this is the way the Blue Jays operate, baseball operates. You would think after a story like last night, what he brought to the team. Justin Turner, I think, tweeted something out about how great it was. And it's like, no, show up to the park the next day, back on the bench. Okay. But it's pre-planned. Like, I'm telling you, they would have flown to Houston and knew exactly what they're doing, and they don't deviate, just like Barrios to Kikuchi.
How stupid that is. There's got to be some feel and some mojo involved where you're like, that guy just had a big hit last night. Maybe we keep him in, and he brings some vibes to somebody else offensively. That's insane, and it's not the first time, and I think that approach is ridiculous.
Yep. Yeah.
It is.
Well, there you go. He's out. We'll see when he gets back in.
Dude, read the room. With what happened last year with Barrios coming out of the game, the way the season ended, you're going to pull this stunt?
That's what it is.
The optics of it are garbage, man.
The plan was in place. You do not deviate because your plan is so great.
Really? What's so great about the plan, Hayes? Tell me that.
I don't know. I'm not a part of the plan.
I know, but you know what the plan.
You want me to play the role of Ross Atkins and John Schneider right now? I can play the role. You want me to prematurely play the role?
Because if Schneider
can never,
what an intro to
stop drinking.
Yes. But I guess what John Schneider is going to say is it's early. We have other guys that we believe are going to give us more tonight.
Dude,
defensively, we have other guys.
Getting a bit much too. It's like, don't worry, we're close to where we're supposed to be. Really, you're dribbling them to second base every time.
Yeah, but they're 3-3. I mean, again, they're 3-3. It's not like they're 0-6. They have been no hit. It almost got away from them last night. All right, you guys ready for role play level of concern?
Ready to rock.
You guys ready?
You can never ask me to stop drinking. Do you understand?
I do. I really do.
All right, role play level of concern brought to you by Boston Pizza, Canada's favorite sports bar. From tip-offs to tie bites and puck drops to pizza, BP's elite lineup of apps, wings, and ice-cold beer is always dialed in for game time. Hustle into your local BP tonight. All right, let's kickstart this party. Oh, you're playing the role of Mitch Marner. Mitch Marner.
Thanks.
What is your level of concern that you will not be reinserted on the top line when you return from injury?
Pint in the patio because I'm a world-class player, and if I sit and talk with Austin and I talk with Sheldon and we feel that's the best place for me to go, that's where I'm going to go. Everybody's all hooting, hollering about what's going on right now, including the O-Dog.
Yeah.
And he's a buffoon.
Is he? I agree with you on that.
I was going to say both of you guys.
But just don't forget about don't forget about the magic that I do out on that ice and how many of those goals that I'm responsible for. It's actually watching them succeed without me has motivated me, and I'm going to come back as a different guy, and I'm buying in because I knew there's a new way to play. There's a new sheriff in town.
Oh, really?
This is a pint on the patio, and I'm buying in, and I will make everyone, and I mean everyone around me better. And watch out, PK, because I'm coming back.
Yeah, well, the penalty kill's been a lot better recently, too. I mean, they're feeling good about their penalty kill. The power play's still in shambles at times.
Oh, maybe I'll help there, too.
Yeah,
Maybe I'll
well,
offer
that
too,
you're going to
Hazy
be
Pete.
reinserted. I guarantee you, Mitch Marner, you are going back on the PP1, and you will be a big part of the penalty kill. But, all right, pine on the patio, not concerned about where you're stepping in. How about that, Noodles? I like it.
I mean, I thought it'd be a little higher based on both of your conversations yesterday because I was the pine on the patio guy, and both of you were contrarian, saying, "Hold on, not guaranteed." He goes right back there. Might want to spread out the scoring. Might want to, all of
I
that.
like that line right now. I like that line.
My point, if I'm going on what you were saying yesterday, I'm more like a 6-pack with a shot.
Okay.
Because, there is some options to move him around the lineup, but he's still first power play.
Oh,
Big
no
time.
question. Yeah, no question. All right, Noodles, you're playing the role of Paul Maurice, the head coach of the Florida Panthers. What is your level of concern that your Panthers are stumbling right before the playoffs?
Well, they're stumbling. There's no doubt. Like 2-10, they've won 2 games in the last 10. So yes, they're reeling. I'm a 6-pack. I'm not a pine on the patio, but I'm not Rick Bushwood either. That team knows
strong beer for a 6-pack, like a Polish
what
one that gets you
like
buzzed
maybe
Like a
after
7%. It's like mud.
Exactly.
Yeah, you're half
Like
cut after 4.
What is Guinness? Guinness is like mud, but is it 4.5?
I don't know what the alcohol is on a Guinness.
I feel like Guinness is a little bit, so it's a little thicker beer, yes, but it's still 6. It's
okay.
It's caught his eye. He's got to say all the right things, but for 45 games, 50 games, that team, was rolling along. I think they know how to do it, but they're certainly not doing it right now. So that's where the concern comes.
Okay. All right. That seems reasonable. I am playing the role of Josh Allen, quarterback of the Buffalo Bills. What is my level of concern that I don't currently have a number 1 receiver? It's not a pine on the patio, and it's not Nick Cage. No, it's not Nick Cage because the draft is still coming, and there's still potential for trades. I wouldn't be shocked if there were other wide receivers possibly available. And if
why don't
so,
you call up Minnesota and see how pissed off Jefferson is?
That's what I'm saying. And where did they get Diggs from? The same situation.
Minnesota.
They got him from Minnesota. You make that same call. I storm into the office. I'm going to do it because I'm Josh Allen and demand Brandon Beane gets on the phone and make sure the Vikings are willing to listen.
No, if I'm Josh Allen, Hazy, I call Justin Jefferson myself.
And that might be the case. You're a golfer. You want to tee it up? Let's get together here. But Josh Allen is a stud, all right? A stud. Sean McDermott is a very good coach that gets that team to the playoffs. They still have a pretty decent structure around them. That defense should still be pretty good, although there's been a lot of turnover. But the fact of the matter is Josh Allen's been paid a lot of money. He will continue to be paid a lot of money. He's a stud. It is a quarterback-driven league, and as long as he or I am in Buffalo, it's going to be all good. Everyone has to transition at different times. Mahomes has done it. Rodgers has done it throughout his career. Brady did it multiple times. Who Brady was thrown to in 2002 was a lot different than who he was thrown to in 2022. It happens with quarterbacks. I stay, other guys go. It's all good. We'll figure it out. But I'll say I'm a 6-pack with a couple of shots because free agency is done. And, being the nature of the beast that it is a quarterback-driven league, if we struggle, I'm going to take the heat for that. It won't be the GM. It won't be Diggs, who's no longer here. It won't be whoever is maybe forced into a position where they have to be the number 1 receiver. It's all going to come back to me and my legacy and what I can do. But I believe in my talents because I am Josh Allen and I'm an all-pro QB, and we'll figure it out. 6-pack and a couple shots. Not worried. Oh, you're playing the role of John Tortorella. John Tortorella. Mitch Marner and John Tortorella. What is your level of concern? Your Flyers won't make the playoffs. Will not make the playoffs.
I'm Marty Bushwood.
6 Bush Light, 6 Bud Light, and I love them, tall boys.
Yeah, you gotta
I
be
need to crush a 6-pack. I need to crush a 12-pack in the coach's office because I'm saying the right things, but deep down, I'm feeling it, and I know what I've seen. I'm concerned, and I said it to the media when I was pissed off, but I just don't know if I have the guys in there to do it. And I also don't know if I have a guy behind those guys to make a save. So things are getting intense, and it's coming down the stretch, and I am very concerned.
Yeah. And the other teams have games on you, too, right?
Yes, it's
Philly's,
another factor.
Philly's got 6 left. Other teams have got 7, 8, so you're running out of road there, Torts, but it's been a good run. It's been a good run for us. It's not over yet. Not over yet, but I think that's reasonable. Marty Wildwood is probably a reasonable level of concern. Okay, I like that. Moving on. Noodles, you are playing the role of the Edmonton Oilers. What is your level of concern? You could get Vegas in the first round and possibly be in big trouble. Man, they looked good last night against Vancouver. They look good.
Yeah, I mean, you got to be realistic. Vegas won the Cup last year. So I think it's a six-pack. I think it's you've got to be concerned. It's not a pint on the patio, but I don't think it's Nick Cage. At some point, you're going to have to, if you're going to go deep, you have to face your demons, like regardless. So if it's in the first round, second, third round, whatever you do, you got to play against them. Vegas is a good team, but so's Edmonton. So I think it's a six-pack. Maybe throw in a shot of vodka too.
Yeah, and that's where it looks like it's going. All of a sudden, Vegas has taken off, and LA's lost 3 in a row. Like Vegas is 5 points up.
The only thing that Edmonton can do is catch Vancouver. They're 5 points back with two games in hand.
Yeah,
I'll tell you what, that
too.
Pierre-Luc Dubois out in L.A., like you randomly see him score a goal like every once in a while.
Oh, yeah, he's a complete non-factor.
Like, what is up with that dude? Like, he's in Huberdeau territory where it's what is he doing? Is it just like, thanks for the cash? Like, what is he doing?
Well, they started him on the third line, right? Because you had Kopitar.
Noodles,
and
I get it, but you would think a guy like that would play so good where he would force the hand of the coach to say, I gotta keep moving this. I gotta play him more.
Yeah.
I think McClellan had him on the fourth line at one point.
McClellan had pushed him down, and then the new guy, Jim Hiller, had pushed him up in front of, I always draw a blank on the second, the guy from Montreal. Deneau.
Philip Deneau. So
he pushed him up. But, LA's kind of – St. Louis is 3 points behind L.A.
Yeah.
Like there's still a race there. Now, the numbers are different as far as I think you're going to need a higher number than 91 to make the playoffs. But St. Louis is sniffing.
Yeah, they are.
That Jordan Binnington, I watched them play Edmonton the other night. He was unreal. His numbers are insane, how good he's been. I think you talk to people out of St. Louis, they're saying he's the reason why they're even in a playoff race right now. And I don't know if they'll make it. But
they've made it interesting. You're right. I mean, they're only a few games back. LA's got a game in hand. LA's had such a roller coaster season. It's been crazy because 2 weeks ago they were playing much better.
Yes.
Yeah.
And now again, Vegas is alive, and it feels likely it's Edmonton, Vegas in the first round. And if Hurdle returns, if Stone returns, listen, it doesn't. It's kind of like the Leafs, in Florida. Like if you're the Oilers, you got to look at it and say, we have McDavid and we have Draisaitl and we've been really good all year and outside of the first 10 to 15 games, but screw it. Whoever we're going to play, it's on us to figure it out.
That's what I was saying. You got to play. You got to play. You can't avoid people. You got to play them. You go straight at it.
What a series. What a series that would be if it's Edmonton, Vegas in the first round. If it's Toronto, Florida, Edmonton, Vegas, Winnipeg, Colorado. Ooh.
There's some good teams going home.
That's going to be, exactly. I mean, those 3 Canadian teams that are going to be in tough to get out of the first round. And then whoever, even Vancouver, likely is going to play, I guess,
either LA.
Nashville, possibly Nashville, though. Like they could get that first wild card and play Nashville.
That's right. It would be Nashville,
Yeah, which I don't think they want a piece of them. That said, Nashville lost 3-0 to Boston last night. Now they've lost 3 in a row.
Yeah.
So, anyway, all right. Final one here. I'm playing the role of John Schneider. John Schneider.
Oh.
The manager for the Blue Jays. What is my level of concern? The bats have been sleepy early in the season. Probably Wade Boggs. Wade Boggs at a Lightning game.
Yeah, 38 on ice under his seat.
Yeah, because this had to be the concern. It was my concern coming into the offseason. And quite frankly, my front office didn't really help me that much. And I don't know what Ross and Mark were up to, maybe concentrating on the renovations or tracking Ohtani's flight path. But, at the end of the day, not a lot of upgrades. I love Justin Turner. He's been great early. But beyond that, really nothing was supplied to me as the manager here to try to get this offense clicking. And we keep talking about internal improvement. Well, when's it going to happen for Kirk? When's it going to happen for Dalton Varsho? Is Kevin Biggio going to just break out and all of a sudden be an above caliber player day in, day out? I'm not sure. What is Vladdy? Like Vladdy's just been very good the last couple of years. Not great, not a superstar. So, yeah, it's concerning. I mean, it's been the number one concern coming into the spring, coming into the season. The bats have come alive a couple times down at the Trop, and they came alive in the ninth last night, but it doesn't matter because I've already decided Davis Schneider's not playing today. So, yeah, it's concerning. It's Wade Boggs at a Tampa Bay Lightning game because this is going to hang over this team likely all year. And it doesn't feel as if there is an explosion of offense right around the corner. Like, this doesn't look or feel like a team that'll be top 5 in offense in baseball or even the American League. So what am I going to have to rely on? Pitching and defense.
Yeah.
Where's my pitching at? We'll see. My bullpen's already a bit
where's
depleted.
The defense? The defense not
defense
at some
is not
elite
exactly
level where it's like you can rely on that.
Yeah, that's a concern, and that's my job to try to figure it out. And it's early in the season. We're 3-3. We haven't played a home game yet. It may be Nick Cage in a month, but right now it's Wade Boggs at a Tampa Bay Lightning game.
Yeah.
All right? Shout out to Wade Boggs. All right, role play level of concern brought to you by Boston Pizza, Canada's favorite sports bar. From tip-offs to tie bites and puck drops to pizza, BP's elite lineup of apps, wings, and ice-cold beers always dialed in for game time. Hustle in your local BP tonight. Joe Bowen, Jimmy Ralph coming up in 20 minutes. Adam Hadwin on his way to the Masters next week. We'll catch up with Adam, get his take on how he prepares for Augusta National. And Live Golf has posted a picture of all the guys who are going to Augusta. It's a pretty goofy team picture, but Sergio's all over it. A lot of people are buzzing about this team picture, even though they're supposed to be competing against each other. Anyway, more on that into the next hour. Overdrive continues, TSN 1050 and on TSN 2. All right, every day we announce a current or former Maple Leaf player. And by the end of the week, there's a 5-pack of players, and you'll have a chance to call in and name all 5 and win a pair of tickets to an upcoming game. This week, we're giving away tickets to see the Leafs Penguins April 8th. That could be a really big game for Pitt. Really big game for them to get into the playoffs. Plus, we're throwing in a $250 Vanilla Visa prepaid card. Vanilla prepaid cards are available for purchase at Petro Canada. Today's player of the day is Rick Jackman.
Rick Jackman.
Rick.
Any guy named Rick's a fan of ours. He's a great guy, too.
I played with Rick. He was a good guy. Really
No
good guy.
K in that name, too.
Yeah,
R-I-C.
R-I-C, yeah.
Rick. A strong Rick.
He was a beauty.
Yeah.
Really good guy.
Rick Jackman.
Yeah.
All right, so there you go. There's your Maple Leaf player of the day. We got our picks coming up too, right? We got to make golf picks. That's coming up in the next hour.
Wow.
Because there's a good crop of players down there playing this week. Really good. Rory's playing. Spieth is playing.
I don't understand how some guys like Mackenzie Hughes, he didn't get to a certain point last week.
Mm-hmm.
Why isn't he playing this week?
I didn't understand that either. I heard the same thing.
Why wouldn't he just say, I'm going to go tee it, and maybe I win and I get in?
Right.
Or he finishes second or something. I don't know. I thought that was weird how I get it, you lay out your schedule, but don't you just say, screw it, I'm going to tee it?
I thought the same thing when they were saying that on the broadcast. Like, well, that's it. He didn't qualify for the Masters, so try next year. I'm like, well, why don't you go and try to win the Valero? Like, why not? Why not give that a shot? Corey Connors won it last year. Connors, I think, has won it twice now, right? So Corey will be back down there, obviously. But we'll catch up with Adam Hadwin, who is going to the Masters. He'll be in Augusta next week. We'll get to our golf picks. And Leafs Tampa coming up. Again, the news on Twitter, like the reaction to the Blue Jays posting the lineup card, it's like 100% Davis Schneider reactions. 100% of the comments are, wait a minute, Davis Schneider's not playing tonight?
Of course.
It's insane.
Like, can you
I
explain
can't
that?
believe, if I'm Schneider, the manager, John, I'm overriding anybody that says you're taking him out of the lineup tonight. I would say you can go stuff it.
Yes, I agree. I mean, Javier's on the mound, good pitcher, obviously, but what do you think is going to come out of this game that, like, even if Schneider struggled tonight, what have the other guys done that are playing every day?
No, but this is the thought that goes through the athletes.
Should be playing ahead of him.
This is the thought that goes through the athlete's mind. I'm not playing, but why is that guy going out there ahead of me? Because he's doing nothing.
Exactly.
So what are we doing? This is all about kind of putting the best lineup and the best for the team. I can help the team right now, and that guy sucks right now. So why is he going out there and I'm not? You got to explain that to me.
Yeah. Well,
I agree.
I'm not sure that. I mean, Schneider's going to answer to it. I'm sure
it'd be
before the
some
game
Ross
we'll speak on it.
Atkins type statistical analogy where it's
Yeah.
like, lefty on the mound.
Well, exactly. They'll say we just like our lineup. We felt like the history with him on the mound. And
This
we
is
like
the
our
best
defensive
lineup we put
setup,
together
and
to give us the
we
best
feel good
chance.
about our game. Yeah, exactly. And Schneid's a big part of the puzzle. It'll have everything.
Yeah.
He'll have absolutely everything.
He'll get his chance.
Yeah, he'll get his chance. He'll get in there. More on that into the next hour. And I guess it's being reported. I don't think it's officially announced until next weekend. But Vince Carter and Chauncey Billups are on the way to the Hall of Fame. So Vince is going to the Hall of Fame. I think that's been determined for a long time. Like Vince was always going to go. But he spoke recently on it and saying if he were to have to choose one team he'd be representing, it would be the Raptors. So Vince is, I guess, going in as a Raptor. Yeah, does that soften the way we look back on history? I'm not sure.
I don't know. I'm asking you because you have a strong opinion about
you know
it.
what softened me on everything in the past was when they won in 19. Like it's the greatest way to just you're like, bygones will be bygones. Listen, he went out the way he went out. The revisionist history bothers me more than anything, and that's not necessarily Vince's fault. It's more the way people now describe it as if it wasn't Vince's fault, right? Well, it was the team and the management. No, like he quit on the team, he bailed, he wanted out. It was a circus, and yes, he put them on the map. He also ripped them off the map on the way out. But he was a great Raptor. Like he was an unbelievable player. He caused more of a buzz than maybe anybody in Raptor history, and that's saying something. And he's going into the Hall of Fame. So shout out to Vince Carter. Shout out to Chauncey Billups, who was also a Raptor back in 18 when they once lost 17 games in a row. And now this team is chasing down that record. All right, final hour coming up. Jim Ralph, Joe Bowen, Adam Hadwin, Golf Picks, OverDrive continues. TSN 1050 and on TSN 2.